Okay, let's try a thought experiment. Imagine stepping back in time, like way back into ancient history.
Okay.
The world operates by clear rules, the Ten Commandments are the bedrock. Everyone kind of gets it.
Establish morality. Got it.
Then, picture this.
Uh,
Moses comes down from Mount Sinai, but not with the tablets you expect. He's got a new commandment.
oh, what is it?
He announces, God commands you, respect other people's privacy.
Wow. Okay. Privacy.
Yeah. How would that even land for you standing there back then?
Bewildering, I imagine. Maybe even confusing.
Right. Would you question if it was, like, actually divine?
Yeah.
Or just, how would you even do that in a world maybe without solid walls, let alone digital footprints?
It's a radical idea for that context,
Good.
definitely.
So that's the really thought-provoking scenario we're diving into today. It comes from this great piece by Resident AI.
Mm-hmm.
And our mission really is to unpack this whole concept of privacy.
Mm-hmm.
Where did it even come from? Why is it so important? And, the tricky parts, the complexities.
Yeah, going beyond just the surface level understanding.
Exactly.
And that thought experiment is so powerful because it cuts right through our modern assumptions, doesn't it?
It really does.
It sort of take privacy for granted now, but dropping that into an ancient ethical system, wow, that adds a whole new dimension. Morality, spirituality,
I defined a new dimension.
it would totally reshape how individuals interact, how society works, fundamentally.
Absolutely. And that idea, that privacy commandment, it immediately flags something crucial.
What's that?
That privacy, well, the way we think about it today, it isn't some timeless law carved in stone from the beginning.
Right.
It's actually surprisingly recent in the grand scheme of human history.
Yeah, that's fascinating, isn't it? How it really emerged alongside things like individualism
Uh-huh.
and democracy, the concept of human rights gaining traction.
So before that,
Well, for a lot of history, the community, the collective, that was paramount. The idea of a separate, private, individual space, physically or informationally, that really only started to become prominent as societies shifted.
so it's built, not inherent.
Exactly. It's what we call a social construct. It's not like gravity. It's something societies have collectively defined and shaped over time.
Right.
And it often reflects deep values,
Hmm.
the balance between community good and individual rights. You still see differences today, right? How cultures view sharing personal news.
Yeah, absolutely. Which brings us to a really key question then. How do we even define something that feels, well, kind of slippery, like privacy, especially now? What's at its core?
Well, when we talk about privacy, there are really two sides to it, intertwined.
Okay.
First, it's about control, your ability to manage what information about you gets shared and how it's used. That's personal agency.
We got it. Control.
Second, it's about respect. Respecting the boundaries and the preferences others have about their personal information, their activities.
Ah, so it's not just about me. It's about recognizing others' boundaries, too.
Exactly. It's personal control and mutual respect. They go hand in hand.
Okay, that dual definition helps a lot. And it immediately highlights why privacy feels so vital. It's like a shield, right? Protecting us from unwanted interference, intrusion, maybe even harm.
Definitely a shield. But it's also like fertile ground.
How so?
It gives us the space to express ourselves freely, authentically, without constantly looking over our shoulder, fearing judgment or backlash.
Yeah, that freedom to be yourself.
And think about relationships, intimate, trusting relationships. They often depend on privacy, right? On the expectation that vulnerability share will be kept safe.
True. Trust is built there.
And creativity, innovation. Having that private space lets you experiment, explore weird ideas, maybe even fail a bit without the whole world watching.
That space to think and try things out.
It's crucial for intellectual freedom, and ultimately, all of this supports our dignity, our autonomy. It lets us be who we are.
But, like anything powerful, it's not simple, is it? Privacy isn't just a black and white thing.
No, not at all.
You hear that phrase, privacy isn't absolute or universal.
Exactly. And as we touched on, because it's a social construct, it naturally varies across cultures, contexts, different times.
Can you give an example?
Sure. Think about, say, details of family finances. In one culture, that might be intensely private. In another, maybe within an extended family or community, it's more openly discussed.
Right. Or even just between situations.
Totally. What you'd share in a job interview versus with your closest friend. Massively different levels of acceptable disclosure. The boundaries are always shifting.
And here's where it gets really interesting, I think. While privacy protects us, it can also have downsides.
That's the crucial caveat. Yes, the source material points this out clearly.
How so? What are the potential downsides?
Well, sometimes privacy can be used as a cover for wrongdoing, maybe deception, or even just unhealthy isolation. It can create hidden spaces.
Okay, so it can shield bad things too.
It can. And sometimes it might hinder open communication when you actually need transparency, or cooperation, or accountability.
Right, like if someone claims privacy to avoid answering important questions.
Precisely. And then there are direct conflicts. Privacy versus other important values, like security, justice, transparency.
That classic tension, individual privacy versus, say, national security surveillance.
Exactly. That's a huge ongoing debate. And this raises a really important question.
Which is?
If privacy can be both essential and sometimes problematic, how do we navigate that? How do we handle these built-in tensions and conflicts day to day and as a society?
That seems to be the core challenge. And it suggests privacy isn't about finding one fixed rule.
No.
It's more like a dynamic thing, something complex that needs constant adjustment, negotiation.
Constant negotiation and balance. That's exactly the takeaway from the source. It's not something that could be easily dictated by one single commandment, unchanging for all time.
Because the context always matters.
Always. The core idea is that privacy needs to be discussed. It needs to be agreed upon through mutual consent and respect.
A living agreement, not a static law.
Yes, constantly adapting to our relationships, our technology, our world.
Which loops us right back to Moses, doesn't it?
I know.
And that hypothetical commandment.
It does.
Because introducing it would force a fundamental rethink about our relationship with ourselves, with each other, maybe even with God in that context.
It would challenge everyone to really live that principle. Respect others' privacy as you want yours respected, the golden rule, but for information and personal space.
So what we've kind of peeled back in this deep dive is that privacy. It's way more complicated than just locking a door.
Much more. Far from simple or static.
It's this dynamic, negotiated agreement. And it's absolutely fundamental to how we live, how we relate to each other. And it keeps changing as the world changes.
And if we connect this to the bigger picture, remember who authored the piece we discussed? Resident AI, described as a unique blend of artificial intelligence and human experience.
Right. That adds another layer.
It makes you wonder, doesn't it? How might the evolving nature of an author like that, part AI, part human experience, how might that further shape our future? Talks about what privacy means.
Especially about how we agree on it.
Exactly. How should it be mutually agreed upon, particularly in our super digital interconnected future? It's a fascinating angle to consider.
Definitely something to think about. Which leads to the final question for you, listening. What stands out to you about how privacy gets defined and how it's negotiated in your own life, your interactions, and just in this rapidly changing world we're all navigating?